Rule violation number 13, plead guilty, not guilty, guilty with a statement, or not guilty with a statement. Special conditions, no contact with minor children. You violate this condition in that on or about 8/23/2022, you may contact with a child at your residence and were found to be in presence of a minor child. We made contact. You were found to be in presence of a minor child. How do you plead?
Not guilty with a statement.
All right. Not guilty with a statement, and you can make that statement to Ms. Jackson.
All right, Ms. Malbrough, my name is Bonnie Jackson. I'll be asking you some questions, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Your conviction was for sexual battery.
Yes, ma'am.
How old was the person who was the victim of the sexual battery?
I'm thinking she was 15. I was 18.
Okay,
We was in school together.
okay. I understand that the parole officer came to your house for a contact visit. Your sister was there and she had come from Baytown, Texas. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
She brought her children with her. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
How many children did she bring?
She brought 3 kids, but it was only 2 at my house. Her oldest was 20 and her youngest was 16.
Okay, and so it was a 16-year-old that caused you to be arrested. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
I understand that it was your thinking that the condition was that you not have unsupervised contact with minors. Is that correct?
No, ma'am. He had put it in his testimony the wrong way.
You, sir, listen to my question. Was it your understanding that you could have contact with minors as long as it was supervised by another adult?
Oh, yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry.
That's your understanding, but the parole officer indicated something different to you when she came to the house for the contact. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And so you were taken into custody on August the 23rd of 2022?
Yes, ma'am.
And you had just been paroled on August the 16th of 2022, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
So you'd only been out about a couple of weeks when your sister came to visit, is that correct?
I was only home 7 days, six days.
Okay, my math not good, thank you. All right. All right, thank you, that's all I have.
We're here for Miss Dominique. Would you like to make a statement, Miss Dominique?
Yes, sir, I do, because I think this is like, it totally went wrong on the behalf of my behalf, because I wouldn't have came if he couldn't have been around him at all. I wouldn't have, because I was here. And the way the probation parole officer came in to where she was kind of, and when we talking about a minor on his behalf, the way she handled it on my son's behalf, it wasn't even to where she put us out in the rain. You know, she came very strong to him, like he even knew what was going on and he didn't. And that's my main concern of how she even handled her whole situation when she even came here. Because I wouldn't have never jeopardized my brother going back to jail behind me being here visiting, and I was here. So I feel like this whole situation went wrong when my understanding of the total agreement to what they agreed to was misunderstanding, because she should have said that he couldn't be unsupervised or supervised, period.
All right, thank you so much for your comment. Thank you. Eric, would you like to make a statement on your behalf, man?
Yes, sir. She was Miss Higginbottom was my probation officer before I went to jail, and her supervisor, Miss LeBlanc, was my probation officer before her. So before I got married, my wife moved in with me with her kids, and her supervisor, Miss LeBlanc, told me that long as I don't be left alone with the kids and I be supervised by an adult, it's okay. So when they switched probation officers, Ms. Higginbottom became my probation officer. She was coming to my house. She was visiting me. My stepkids answering the door. And, she visited me. She leave and everything was fine. Okay, I get locked up. I come home and my nephew answered the door. She locked me up. So I'm like trying to figure out the differences between my nephew and my stepkids. So I asked her, like, about adult being present. And she told me it's the differences between probation and parole. So I was like, well, you never explained that to me. And she locked me up. So I was like, I felt like it was an entrapment because when I went to her office, when I got out, she asked me about my barbershop. I owned a barbershop before I got locked up. And she asked me about my barbershop and she didn't say nothing about it. She let me go. And so in the parole hearing, since I felt like it was an entrapment, I asked her in front of the probation parole officers. I asked her why she asked me about my barbershop. And she responded, she said, that's irrelevant in front of the other officers. So I was like, nobody said nothing about it. And I felt like, it might not be important to her, but it's important to me because it's my freedom. I'm just coming home. I wouldn't, do nothing in front of my probation officer disrespectful for her to lock me up. And I just feel like she could have just talked to me or just gave me a verbal warning. And I mean, not lock me up. I'm just coming home. I'm not trying to do nothing to violate my probation.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for your comment. Thank you for your comment. We found fair to vote, Ms. Jackson.
Ms. Malbrough, let me just say, I'm really sorry that this happened to you. But I'm really sorry that this happened to you.
Okay, thanks.
It shouldn't have been handled that way. And I'm gonna go on the record and say that. So you do live in the home with your stepchildren, is that correct?
I did. We separated. Me and my wife separated now. So I live alone.
You had been allowed to live in the house with your stepchildren.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, my vote today is to do not revoke, to return you to supervision, and to modify the terms of your parole to indicate that you are to have no unsupervised contact with minors. That's my vote.
Okay,
All right,
thanks.
Ms. Brandon.
Mr. Malbrough, I was the director of probation and parole for 35 years. And I also think this situation could have been handled much differently. I concur with Ms. Jackson. I think your judge had allowed you to have contact with minors, with your stepchildren. And then when you come out on parole, that condition should have been put on your parole certificate also. That should have been written in and try to get that added to your parole conditions. So my vote is to do not revoke and turn you loose, and with the same condition, no unsupervised contact.
All right, thanks.
2 votes to do not revoke. Also going to vote to do not revoke your parole, return you to supervision. That way you can get out and do what you need to do, keep working. And look, get with your parole officer and get that squared away. But it'll be stated that you can't have unsupervised. If you have supervised, that's okay. So 3 votes to do not revoke, return you to supervision. Good luck to you, man.
All right, thanks. Appreciate it.
All right, we'll adjourn at 10:50 at Tensaw.
Thank you.
I'm going home.
I have mixed feelings about this one. You may have remembered I did it like a year ago, and then
Richard was going through the notes and he put up the information about it. And I think in the last, I didn't rewatch what I had commented, but I think it triggered the same emotions. Seeing him shed a real tear, seeing him going home, listening to Miss Jackson say, I feel like you were wrong, listening to Mr. Pete Freeman, who said this should have been handled differently. But with the additional information that I have, it's, he has a long record. It's not just this one offense that happened in high school, which I question. Now, the math, okay, so why do I question it? The reason I question it, he says he was 19, she was 15, they were in the same school. And we see these offenders say those things all the time, and then we'll go through the law, the legislation, say, no, that's just not possible. The law wouldn't have given him that sentence. In this situation, his age and the time that he got the sentence actually adds up where it doesn't seem that he's lying. Oftentimes they say, oh, she was 15, but really no, she, by the sentence, she had to have been younger than 13. In this case, it doesn't seem that the math actually seems to add up in his favor, where at the time of his offense, he would have been 19. And if she was 15, it would have been a 4-year difference, which would have gotten him the count, making him register as a number two offender. And he got a 6-year sentence, which for Louisiana, that's quite a lot. But then you look at his record, and I want to share the screen. The problem is that they show, so we could share one. He's been revoked. He's been revoked over and over and over again. He has 2 DWIs. He has, I think, 3 failure to register. So here's one where has a failure to register. Oh, this is also a DUI. Here's another one in 2015, failure to register. He has this one. This one is scary, just because you see all of them. Louisiana arrests all these folks for failure to register. So he was picked up in that list. Then we have another one I'll just read to you in 2019 where he was pulled over. I can't share it with you because it shows an address. We can't share that kind of information according to YouTube. So the cop pulls him over, and instead of a driver's license, he gives them his sex offender ID card. Can you imagine if that's the only ID you have is your sex offender ID card? Would you give that to the police officer? Oh, man, what a nightmare. And, of course, that did him no favors. He was found that he had no license, and he was driving intoxicated. They found at the traffic stop, they found open bottles in his car, and he took a breathalyzer test and he failed, and that was his second failure. So, it's not like, but I don't know. How do you feel about it? I mean, on the other hand, this hearing happened in November 2022. We're more than 2 years later, and we don't see that he has any record. So you tell me, how do you feel about this one? Anyways, thought I'd share that. Richard asked, with that additional information, maybe we'll have a different feeling. I don't know. With that, I'll let you go.